Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of The Rad Heart. We call this episode The Breakthrough because it's a story of Eli's struggle he had in school and how he overcame it. How about Eli, do you want to begin kind of and introduce sort of what your struggle was?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like my struggle started around elementary school, like mid to late elementary school. And it was really just having to comprehend the work wasn't working in school. So like every day after school, I'd have to come home and my mom would just have to reteach me almost every subject. And that was kind of hard for us, because every day for third grade through even sixth grade, just her having to teach me every subject over again for me to finally get it was just hard. So in sixth grade, we were finally just kind of done with it. So we started looking for different schools for me to transition to, and we finally found one it's a little school called Ambleside. And the big thing about that was how it was a small school and it was also faith-based, which is really big. Because I knew I kind of wanted that in my latter years of middle school, because I knew I was gonna go to Mullen High School afterwards, which is also a Catholic faith-based school. So that was just kind of good to find a school like that I could actually learn without having to come home every day and my mom teaching me.
Yeah, I think too, for me, I knew, it's one thing to teach someone in third grade, fourth grade, but when I was still having to do a lot of it, fifth, sixth grade, it's, when it's time for you to be more independent in your school, and honestly, the schoolwork is getting difficult for me. I would have to learn something and then you'd get frustrated, or I wouldn't know and have to go figure it out. So we knew we had to find a place, first of all, to get him ready for high school, because he really wanted to follow Victoria and Noah, his older brother and sister, on to Mullen. And Mullen is a college prep. It's a difficult school. So, and we knew he could do it. It wasn't that he wasn't smart enough. He just needed the right tools to figure out, to be able to do his work on his own. And the pretty cool thing is I think you had kind of forgotten this, is when we went to your teachers at school, they were actually really supportive. And they even said, Eli, we know it's difficult. We don't have the time. The school was huge. His middle school was huge at the time, and we just don't have the time to spend with students, that aren't in the IEPs or in the gifted and talented. So that felt really good. So then we found Ambleside, and I had, as a family, the kids have been in public school, homeschool, and private school. So we've kind of done a little of all of it. And the thing I liked most about Ambleside was it followed the Charlotte Mason curriculum, which is a homeschool curriculum that I used with Victoria and Noah. I homeschooled them when Eli was first born, because we had to be in and out of the state so much, and that was just the easiest way to keep them up on their work. So that was great for me. I loved that. Very classical, no iPads, no computers until there was maybe research that needed to be done, or their final draft of a paper or something was done. So Eli, what did you gain out of Ambleside going there?
Going there, I felt, because it was a smaller school, it was more one-on-one with the teachers. You could have that more personal one-on-one learning, which was very helpful for me, because if I usually don't get something right away, it kind of takes that one-on-one help. And so having the teachers be more involved and be willing to stay after school even and do that one-on-one helped me improve with my learning. And also with the social aspect, the classes were a lot smaller. So I had my friends, and even when I transferred in 7th grade, and it was such a small school that the 7th and 8th grade classes were combined. So it was really cool to like know the 8th grade kids, and like we'd still all hang out, and we'd have like nature walks. It was a cool like adventurous school almost. And like even though we were in 7th and 8th grade, we still had recess, which was kind of cool. So like we would go out and play basketball, and like even play on they had like a little play set or whatever. So it was really cool like to still have that social aspect. And then also just like, as I said, the nature walks, it wasn't all in classroom. There was like, we'd go on the nature walks and like we'd paint leaves and like stuff like that. So it was just like fun. And then when we did like our like sports class, like our gym, we'd actually travel to like a tennis court nearby or whatever, and we'd play tennis, or we'd go to a park and play soccer or basketball. And so that was really fun. And the teachers were really like kind of involved in like, the teacher would play with us, like we'd play like 4-on-4, and the teacher would be on a team, like something like that. So it was really fun.
Yeah. Another really great thing too is how they taught you always had to shake their hand, and you had to look them in the eye. And that even this week I was on a conference call, and they talked about the importance of looking someone in the eye, and just the respect and just that person being noticed because you looked at them in the eye. And so your dad and I were always, we'd pick you up, and your principal would shake your hand, and you'd look them in the eye and say goodbye. And that was really cool. So so Ambleside really helped Eli get ready for become independent, more independent as a learner, learn to advocate for himself, because he would go to his teacher and talk to them, tell them what they needed. Ambleside also did not have grades, so you were not at all caught up in how well you were doing that way. You kind of knew how well you were doing, and or not, you know. So that was nice. So then preparing you for Mullen, I would say, I remember your freshman year being a little bit of a transition.
Definitely, I would agree. Definitely with like a bigger school than Ambleside. Like it was still a small high school, but it was like what, hundreds of kids? Like
it was like 1,000 kids.
1,000 kids, and that's big compared to a middle school where it was like 50 kids, and it was kindergarten through 8th grade. And so the transition was different because it was bigger and it's high school. But with having Victoria and Noah have been there, it was a little easier because I still knew some of the staff, and some of my friends like on sports teams were going there. And so it wasn't as hard of a transition, but it was still the workload with not having homework at Ambleside. That transition to having homework and having to do that was a little difficult, but not as difficult as in middle school, definitely.
So what would you say? So that leads us to the breakthrough. What happened that helped you manage everything?
I definitely say freshman year, later in freshman year, I'd say meeting my friends, specifically Van and Owen and Colin freshman year. They were like, we're still great friends right now. Like we talk, it's awesome. Like we're definitely friends for life. Like it's awesome. But yeah, them, like they were and still are like very studious students, but in a social way. Like did really good in school. They're very social. So like they balance that themselves. And so I guess me getting into that scene helped myself. Like they helped me get into that like zone, I guess you could say. And so that was like freshman year, ending freshman year. And then obviously we've stayed friends. So sophomore year was a little easier In the beginning, a staff member that I already knew coming into Mullen, his name is Vince Massey. He is a great guy. I usually went for lunch. I went to his office and just had lunch with him. We just talked, and one day he had some of his wrestling guys in because he was the wrestling coach. So he was like, Eli, you should try out for the wrestling team. Like, you should be a wrestler. And so then that's when I told him about my heart condition and how I can't wrestle because of the contact and how, like, whatever. And he was like, okay, well, you should still come in because we need managers. Like, I think you would still be a good manager. And so I think it was that day, like, I went in and just watched practice, and he kind of showed me the ropes of how to manage and stuff, and it just kind of clicked. And even that first year, like, I would go to the tournaments, and I started obviously as like the secondary manager, so like just JV and whatever. One day after practice, he just pulled me aside and was like, hey, we're giving you the varsity book, like, don't screw this up, like, this is for you. And then on, it was just kind of me as the manager. And after sophomore year, junior and senior year, it was just me as the wrestling manager. And no one, like, at first, junior, like, when that transition hit, nobody else was the manager. I was just the one and only manager. And later in my, like, junior, senior year, Mr. Massey did not, like, step down as the coach. And so the new wrestling coach, Coach House, who's a great guy also, hilarious, he didn't really know, like, all the technical parts to that Massey knew, like the technology and, like, the computer and how to type everything in. So that's when I kind of became like a manager coach almost, because after every match, after every tournament, he gave me the login to the coach, like, portal, I guess you could say. And so I would be the one, like, late night typing in the tournament scores or whatever. So it was cool gaining that responsibility, but also with that having, like, I still had school, obviously. So the wrestling management actually helped with my time management, because it kind of made me have less time to do school. So I would do my homework and stuff, like, even at lunch with Van and Owen and Colin, or Van and Owen were managers for the football team, and wrestling and football kind of overlapped. And so us four would even, like, do our homework after school, like, right before practices, just real quickly. Or even if practice wasn't too bad for me, I'd even just do my homework in the wrestling room. So it was pretty easy to do that time management once I started the wrestling managing, because it helped me realize how to manage my time in a way to benefit myself.
Definitely. And then that led to, so you didn't end up just being wrestling manager. You were...
senior year. So I was wrestling manager through senior year, but then after wrestling, the football coach, actually one of the football coaches, Coach Gus Miss, was a teacher. He kind of asked Van and Owen, do you know anybody that, like, would be a manager, because we don't really have many. And so they knew I was the wrestling manager, so they told him, and he reached out to me, and he just said, come check it out. Like, we don't have many managers, we need some. And so I even went during the summer before senior year to check it out, and that was really cool. So because I did wrestling, the football coaches reached out to me and asked me, and so that helped me become the football manager as well. And so that was kind of cool, because then I was back with Van and Owen, like, we were on the football team, as you can say, together. And so, like, practices were like, I just kind of hang out with them sometimes if they weren't filming, or, like, if I didn't have anything to do. But that also gave me something to do over the summer, other than just sit inside or whatever.
True. Yes, that took your summers up.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then the football games were fun. We weren't very good, but
but then you did girls lacrosse.
Yeah, and then after, because wrestling is usually wrestling's in the fall and bleeds into spring, and football's in the fall. So football's first.
Yeah.
So then I did football and then wrestling, and somehow the girls lacrosse coach heard about me or whatever. I think when I was going to Mr. Massey's office, and she like asked me, "Hey, we need a manager. Do you want to manage?" And so I was like, "Sure." Like spring's usually my off time, I guess you could say. So I was like, "Why not just keep going? It's senior year. Like, do all three. Why not?"
Yeah.
And so that was kind of cool because that was more. It was kind of weird to say, but it was the girls lacrosse team, but I knew a lot of them because like a lot of them were seniors.
You went to school with them.
Yeah. And so that was fun. The coach was really cool. And that was I will say that is the time when I started liking Starbucks. Because every day before practice and after, or even before games, we just go to Starbucks. And that was pretty funny. But yeah, that was, senior year was definitely my busiest year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the breakthrough being that Eli figured out how to get good grades, be super social, and manage his time. And definitely. It wasn't something, I don't think as parents you think like, oh, just stack up their schedule and they'll be okay. Because I don't think that's, a lot of kids are not okay with that. But that was Eli's sweet spot. That is still how he is. And we've actually had a conversation today because with COVID, it's prevented him from working. We've had to stay home so much, and it's been difficult for him because it's not his personality. He's, he has spent some time with his friends when they can go and hang out outside, but it's just not. It's not been easy for him, and I think that it's because you don't have a full schedule and you're not able to really manage your day like you like to, because he was always busy. He was always doing stuff, but that's how he did best. It's still true of Eli that is his best place, is when his day is full and he has lots to do and he's very social and that's his personality. And so we were just super thankful and grateful that we learned that about him through that experience, because it really took us trying to figure out how to get out of the struggle to find that his day being full, and he would go early to school. He would stay till after practice. He would come home. He would do his homework. He wasn't up till midnight. He would do his homework. He'd be done and he'd go to bed because he had to start all over the next day. So this also led to Kevin's next breakdown.
Like with all my managing, because I managed 4 years, sophomore, well, I guess that's 3 years.
3 years,
sophomore, junior, senior. So with managing wrestling, I got just a wrestling service award. I was actually the second ever to get it, so that was kind of cool. We spent like 3 trips after I graduated back to the school just to like take pictures and stuff. And then at graduation, so yeah, this is my dad's next breakdown. So at graduation, they have like a big, it's called the LaSallian Service Award. And it's like, I guess it's a countrywide award or whatever. Like it's voted on by people across the country. And so, of course, Mr. Massey's on that committee. Yeah. So he vouched for me and like was like, no, we have to give it to Eli. And so he announced it at graduation, and he's announcing the person, and I'm not thinking anything of it.
He's describing the
Yeah,
person.
he's describing the person. I'm not thinking anything of it. But then he says wrestling, and I'm like, okay, I mean, kids on wrestling, like, come on. And then he says lacrosse, and I'm like, all right, it's gotta be me. And then everybody starts clapping, and it's like patting my back as I go up. And then, so I received the award, and then I guess afterwards, I see my family, and this is when Mom tells me that my dad broke down right when he announced our name.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess you can describe
He was crying like a baby. I mean, you would have, it was so funny because Kevin doesn't do that. So when he did that, it was like, but I think too, it's just that, you found your place, and you couldn't play sports in the traditional way, but you could become a manager, and you did it with so much passion, and you loved it, and you found your best friends that way, and it was just such a blessing, like that had happened, and that you found such a good a way to be so involved and to really be a part of that school, because you don't really know. We're given a lot of statistics when you're born and as you're growing up, and I was showing Eli, I will show you the books of information that I have gathered over the years, and I was telling Eli, like, it's really difficult to know the social part of it. They give you a lot of statistics about how much of this and what surgery does that, but they don't, and really we can't do that with any of our kids, to be honest. We don't really know how our kids are going to be, and whether they have half a heart or not. And I think that was what helped us to realize, like, we had to treat Eli for who he was as a person, not for what his heart condition has done. And so that he had to discover what that was for him. We couldn't do it for him all the time. And I think that in high school, even Ambleside, it started in Ambleside and going on to high school, I think that really helped him, like, discover, these are my gifts, this is what I do best. And now, we kind of are in a new time where Eli's trying to discover how that translates into, adulthood, into whether or not he wants to continue in college, and so, but having that breakthrough once gives you, hope that it's going to happen again, because that's how God works. And it was a neat thing to see, like, your breakthrough and putting your pieces together. So that is the end of episode 2, the breakthrough. We thank you for watching, and we hope you'll come back next week for our next episode. Bye.